Welcome back to WCB Jazz Vinyl. I'm excited to share the latest Blue Note announcement that they are putting out the third volume of the Blue Note Review box set. And it is titled Truly, Madly, Deeply Morgan. Get it? So they teased this release back in January, but now we actually have some details like what music is included, what's the price point, and you can even pre-order it today ahead of the ship date, which I believe is November 1st. So very, very soon. As always, before we get into it, hit like, hit subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at what_can_brown. And yeah, let's just get into it. All right, so let's start with what is the Blue Note Review box set? Well, this is the Blue Note Review box set. As I mentioned, what's coming out though is actually the third edition of the box set series. Now, if you're wondering why you weren't aware of the first two that came out, well, they were put out a long time ago. So this is volume one, focuses on Wayne Shorter. This was released in 2017. So actually before Tone Poet as a series was launched, before BN80 and BN Classic series, right before those series were launched, they had a couple of these review box sets. And in some ways, these were a precursor to Tone Poet in terms of the all analog treatment, the inclusion of some of these classic albums, the presence of Joe Harley as producer and Kevin Gray as a mastering engineer, right? So some of these folks were brought to sort of coalesced around these review series before Tone Poet. So again, this one came out in 2017. The one up there at the back of my room was focused on drummers. So this one focuses on Wayne Shorter for the most part. Those others, or the other box set, focuses on drummers, including Art Blakey, Joe Chambers, Elvin Jones. And that one came out in 2018. So again, before Tone Poet was launched in 2019. So again, neither Tone Poet nor the 80th anniversary series had started, and it felt like to me, as soon as those series did start, Blue Note sort of pressed pause on the review box sets, which and those were necessarily limited in terms of quantity. And I think they were limited in terms of desirability, frankly, because of the price points. And so the launch of classic series and the BN 80th anniversary series, as well as Tone Poet, I think we're probably focused more on that that larger market, and that's probably why they shifted away a little bit from the review box set. I could be wrong. They could have stopped doing it because of COVID and supply chain issues, but in any event, just a guess. So some of the criticisms, though, I think that I'm already hearing about this latest volume is again related to the price point. So I will address that shortly, but let's actually get into what is included with volume three to give you some context around, I think, why it's priced the way that it is. All right, so you can go to BlueNoteReview.com to check out exactly what's included in this box set, but of course, I'm going to share each of the items with you, and I'll try to include some screenshots to give you a better idea as well. So let's see, just as with prior editions, what we have here is some reissued music, some sort of new music compilations. There's photos, there's text, and they do change things up just a little bit this time. So in any event, here's exactly what's included. So first of all, each of these volumes have come in a very nice box, and the artwork is designed specifically for this release. I know from prior editions, and including the one that I showed you, that the boxes are sturdy, they're big enough so that they won't just sort of fall over, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing it comes with is a double LP compilation on 180-gram vinyl, and it consists of tributes to Lee Morgan by artists that include Chief Atunde Ajua, Joel Ross, Bill Frisell, as well as others. It also includes an actual Lee Morgan track, which is an alternate take from a song from the album Search for the New Land. This particular double LP compilation will not be available elsewhere, so it is exclusive to the box set, and its production was overseen by Joe Harley, and it was mastered by Kevin Gray. This item is very similar to one of the items in the other set, where it was also compilation, also included a vintage track. So if you're familiar with those sets, you'll kind of know what to expect, I think, with this one as well. So the next item that is included is a 10-inch album. So this is a live session recorded in 1959 at the club Gate of Horn in Chicago. The session was led by Philly Joe Jones, but it does have Lee Morgan in the lineup, as well as Ira Sullivan, Spanky DeBrest, Nikki Hill, and Bobby Timmons. They also say that this item is not going to be available elsewhere and is similarly produced by Joe Harley and mastered by Kevin Gray. Now, the next piece, in my opinion, is the highlight of the box set, and that is Lee Morgan's Sonic Boom, which, by the way, when Blue Note first announced that they were bringing the review box back and said it would focus on Lee Morgan, which was last January, they put that announcement out. I put out a video that predicted that it would include Sonic Boom. So I need to take some of that luck to Vegas. But Sonic Boom was recorded in 1967, but shelved and not released then. Okay, so it was actually first released in the LT series in 1979, and then again very quickly in Japan by the King Record Company in 1981. We do have an updated and, in my opinion, superior cover for this latest edition that is different than both the LT series as well as different than the King Record Company edition. And again, we have Joe Harley as producer and Kevin Gray as the engineer. Now, the critical piece here is that, and I may be irresponsible for bringing this up, but the Blue Note website references that those other items that I just referenced in this box set are exclusive to the box set. It does not reference that is the case with Sonic Boom. At least in places, like you kind of have to like piece together like inconsistent information on the website, because it says specifically next to the 10-inch release and next to the double LP, this will not be available elsewhere. It is exclusive to this box set, and that language is not present in the text for Sonic Boom, implying perhaps that at some point it will be released as a standalone album. Now, here's the problem. I looked into this elsewhere on the Blue Note page, and it says two things that are also contradictory. It says the new music within will only be available in the review set. And like new music, like what does that mean? Like, is all of this new music if it was recorded a while ago? I don't know. Then it also says elsewhere, none of the items contained in the set will be sold separately. So to me, it feels like there's absolutely no intention in breaking apart this set and selling anything independently, but I just feel like, the language on the webpage is a little bit, it leaves the door open. That's what I would say. But I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be, available, individually. Okay, so that's Sonic Boom. Again, I'm super excited for that particular component, as much as I am for obviously each of the components and the review set as a whole. So we're not done. That's not the only content here. We also have Blue Note singles. So you all know I love Blue Note singles. I have a whole video dedicated to them, and I've been collecting Blue Note singles for a while. I think I have over 100 of them. So this particular one is a 45 that has Sweet Honeybee on one side and Hey Chico on the other side. This is a single that was actually previously released. I want to say I may have it already. But this one is again produced by Joe Harley and mastered by Kevin Gray. And again, this is the session that produced, or the session that produced these singles is for the album Charisma. And that album includes in the lineup, let's see, Hank Mobley, Jackie McLean, Cedar Walton, Paul Chambers, and Billy Higgins. So them, combined with Lee Morgan, that is quite the stellar lineup. So excited to be able to get those singles and hear them. All right. So as far as a little bit of non-music content, we do have two lithographic prints. Don't discount these prints. These are absolutely beautiful. In prior editions of the Blue Note Review box set, these are two that were taken by Francis Wolff. And lately, Blue Note has been selling prints by Francis Wolff for quite a lot of money, honestly. So it is kind of fun to get these. Although, admittedly, I have not yet framed the ones that have come in the prior box sets. All right. So otherwise, there's another magazine here, which includes essays on Lee Morgan, as well as some other interesting topics, including the history of women in jazz criticism. This one comes with, what I've called like a tchotchke in the past. I think one of the previous box sets included a scarf, and the other one was like a deck of playing cards, I think. Or no, you know what it also was? There was a deck of playing cards in one of them. but it also included a record brush, right, to remove lint and stuff. And so I kind of appreciate that in terms of it actually being useful. So in this box set, we also have a 45 RPM record adapter. So that is the sort of tchotchke that they're including, which I personally think is like the best item that they've included thus far in these box sets. And it's great because people who buy this who don't otherwise have, traditional, 45 singles are able to now use that adapter for playing the singles from Charisma, right? So it actually is useful. And then finally, one component that I forgot is that this actually does include a CD of the content that's on the double LP. All right, so those are each of the items that are going to be included in this box set. So how does this compare with prior review box sets? Actually, it's very comparable. In fact, in those sets, you also got the sort of new music compilations with some vintage tracks. You got that extra tchotchke, you got the magazine and the lithographs and a CD. The key here, I think, is that in Volume Two, you got two reissued albums, which included Africaine by Art Blakey and Patterns by Bobby Hutcherson. In Volume One, you only got Step Lightly, which was and don't get me wrong, like that's a fantastic Blue Mitchell album, but here in terms of those reissued albums, you only get Sonic Boom. So I know that there are fans out there of the old and the new, and in a way that almost seems to be what Blue Note is banking on here, in terms of the connection of the older artists with the newer artists that are sort of honoring them, and honestly, artists that otherwise have their own Blue Note albums that you could go and seek out, and sort of maybe discover through this review box set. But in a way, I think bringing these two things together is probably going to appeal to perhaps a more limited pool of fans, simply because, generally speaking, as far as I understand of a lot of folks who listen to this type of music, they're either mostly they're either exclusively on the on interested in the older stuff, or they're interested in the newer stuff. I happen to be interested in both, and maybe that's why these review box sets appeal to me. But also know this is a limited box set. Previous volumes, I believe, I think they had 2,000 copies of each of the prior ones. I haven't seen it referenced how many copies of Volume Three they're going to be, but I think the point is that if there is a more limited set of fans that would be interested in this, well, it corresponds with a limited run and availability of this box set. All right, so that brings us to the price, which is $225, which, let's be real, is a hefty price indeed. So how does that compare? Well, Volume Two was $200 even. But that was in 2018, so I would actually consider them somewhat equivalent prices, at least to allow for inflation. In fact, technically, $200 in 2018 is $251 today. So in a way, it's actually less expensive. Now, what I've been hearing is murmurings about the price, like specifically with this release. So the details only came out today, and already people are kind of asking the question: is this really worth it? And the answer to that question is obviously about personal preference. There's going to be those who wish that there was more music here in this box set, or that there was different music here in this box set, perhaps. But to reiterate, what is here is effectively a vintage album, a double LP of mostly newer music. There's the accompanying CD. There's a 10-inch live album. There's a 7-inch single. Each of these things are produced by Joe Harley and mastered by Kevin Gray, which gives them, like tone poet-like credentials. You also have the physical box, and boxes, from what I understand, are not inexpensive to produce. And then there's this sort of ephemera items. There's photos. There's a 45 RPM adapter. So it feels to me like the amount of content that's here justifies the price. But in order to have that perspective, I think you have to have value for each of the items in the box to come to that conclusion. So if you're the sort of person who's looking at the Blue Note review box set and saying, "Oh, I'll only spend Sonic Boom," then I think it's easy to see why you'd come to the conclusion that $225 for a single album doesn't make sense. But I think that I think that conversely, if you're somebody who has value for each of these things, then you'd come to a different conclusion, right? So the decision that I came to in terms of was it worth it to me is that it indeed was, and I put in my order. And I'll say this. Remember, I'm not a completist with the Tone Poet series or really any modern reissue series. So I don't have the element entering my mind that I know some collectors do. And even me just using the term collectors is probably going to irk some people because a lot of people don't like to think of themselves as collectors, but there are a lot of people out there who are collectors who buy every single Tone Poet, and more power to them. That's just the way that they do it, and they enjoy being in that kind of mode. And will they look at this release and possibly get angry or frustrated because what they really want is Sonic Boom to go along with the rest of their kind of Tone Poet-ish, items? There probably are going to be some of those people, but that's not my style. I evaluate each item based on its own merits and determine if it's something that I want to buy. And in this case, like I said, I decided that I did want to buy it and I could justify the price. And I think that I'm going to enjoy it. So of course, when this item comes in, when it arrives, I will be sure to do a review video. And maybe maybe that'll help anybody who's on the fence, wondering how some of this additional content sounds. Obviously, I'm going to provide my thoughts and sort of do a full review because that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy doing. Will this particular box set sell out? It could. I mean, here's the thing. Volume 1 did sell out. Volume 2, I think there may be still some copies available. Don't hold me to that, but I think at last check there might have still been some copies. The big difference here, though, is that when Volume 1 and 2 came out, Tone Poet didn't exist yet. And it feels like to me that a lot of that Tone Poet crowd and all the energy that's around that series, as well as really, as well as really everything that Blue Note is doing today, which is very different than what they were doing, say, in 2017 and 18, in terms of the focus on reissues and again audiophile treatment, and it feels like the roster of Blue Note musicians has really increased as far as modern artists. There's a lot more energy in Blue Note right now, it feels to me, than there was in 2017, and there's a lot more people in the vinyl hobby. So projecting that onto this particular release, and again, I don't know I don't know what the pressing quantity is of this box set. It could indeed sell out. I don't want to sort of stoke the fire that oh, you have to get it, you're going to miss out kind of thing, because I don't think it's not like this is going to sell out overnight. But it could sell out, and hopefully me providing a review in the next couple of weeks once it comes in, theoretically at the beginning of November, will help people get a better idea on is this worthwhile, is it something that you should spend your money on. But I had to pull the trigger as soon as the announcement came out, just because I'm excited, and we'll see whether they deliver. Blue Note typically does, but again, we'll see what happens when the box set comes in. So those are my thoughts. I am curious what people think about this release. I know that there's going to be a lot of commentary. I think about a couple of things. Again, should there have been more music? Should there have been different music? Should this be at a different price point? Those are kind of the things that I feel like a lot of people are already talking about. But I also know that there's a lot of excitement. So some of the chatter that I've seen online and Instagram, as well as in the Jazz Bums Discord. I think that there is a lot of excitement around this particular release, and yeah, I just think Blue Note continues to do a great job. They continue to think about creative ways to bring this content to fans, and so I'm just excited that they've decided to keep the review box set going, and obviously we'll see if that continues in the future as well. So thanks everyone for your time today, and I will see you next time.